If you're a solo filmmaker most of the time, like me, then shooting a music video at night could be challenging, especially when you're working with small budgets. We've all watched hundreds of films and TV shows that have made their night scenes look amazing, but know that there's a pretty big crew behind lighting those scenes. But my focus for this video is to give some tips and tricks for filmmakers who are planning on shooting a night scene for their upcoming music video. So before we jump into this topic, I have some free filmmaking assets linked down below in the description, so make sure to check those out. And it would also mean a ton if you guys would subscribe to my channel. So here we go. So I recently had a music video land on my plate for an artist named Mokita. The name of the song is Down, and the song is a little somber, it's sad, it's a little slow, so I thought it would be great to shoot it at night. So I made a treatment and pitched it to the artist, and the artist really liked it. And then I made a shot list, which I've also made a video about how to make a shot list for your next music video, which is gonna be right up here, so make sure to check it out. But with shooting at night come many challenges, and the main issue being that it's too dark for your camera. Not having access to power when you're shooting a night scene, being tied down to being a one-man band, and not having enough help to set up lights. Also shooting in a sketchy alleyway in downtown Nashville where a guy walks down the alleyway holding an AR-15. Yes, this actually happened during my shoot 2 weeks ago. This guy was walking down the alley holding an automatic rifle, and my life literally flashed before my eyes. I don't know what this guy was thinking, where he was going, what he was doing, but we had to freaking pack up our stuff and get out of there. But anyways, I'm glad we made it out of that situation safe, and nothing happened as far as I know. With all that said, here are 5 tips to help you shoot better night scenes for your next music video. Okay, tip number 1, find natural light sources. Yes, this is a very obvious tip, but I think it's overlooked a lot of times. There are a few options if you have to shoot a night scene but don't have many lights to work with. One of the main options being that you can shoot under a street light where you get that super tungsteny orange bulb hitting your subject, which could be really cool in a lot of ways. Or finding a storefront where they have some neon signs or some sort of a LED light coming through their storefront that could help light your subject really well. Another option being a parking garage where you can see a lot of daylight bulbs being used. And the last option is to bring your own power, such as a generator to power your own lights. So for this music video, I used a combination of different setups. For example, for this alleyway scene, I had some LED strip lights that I had plugged into a power bank, and at the same time there were these tungsten lights coming from the entrance of a parking garage that was creating this side light on the subject. And then at the same time we have these daylight bulbs happening in the background from the parking garages that clash with the tungsten and also the red LED strip light that I have. And I just love how all these lights came together to create this beautiful frame. With finding the perfect light source comes location scouting. Now, scouting is something that you should do, especially if you're shooting a night scene, because you want to be aware of foot traffic, car traffic, if it's legal to shoot in this location, or even if it's safe. You want to make sure that you're not shooting somewhere that's super sketchy, like for this alleyway situation where this guy had a freaking gun by him. I wasn't aware that that was going to happen, but now I know next time to never shoot in that place again. Okay, tip number 2 is to set the right exposure. Let's go back to our basics. We got our ISO, aperture, and our shutter. So your shutter speed should be set to whatever frame rate you're shooting in. So a quick rule of thumb is to double your shutter based on the frame rate you're shooting in. So if you're shooting in 24 frames, you want it to be 1/48. If you're shooting 60, you want it to be 1/120th, and so on. Using a wide aperture will let more light in through your lens, therefore your image will be exposed better. The smaller the number is, the brighter your image is going to be. For example, if you're shooting at f8, your image is going to be drastically darker than shooting at f1.8. If your aperture and your shutter is set to the bare minimum, such as 24 frames, let's say at 1.8, then the last thing that you need to change is your ISO. Your ISO digitally brightens your image, but this should be the last thing that you tweak in your settings, because the higher your ISO is, the more noise you're going to see in your image. Shooting on a high ISO means that your camera sensor is going to be drastically more sensitive to any source of light. Tip number 3 is to bring external batteries. Now this is something that I started doing more recently with shooting in the great outdoors. So I recently purchased this new device called a D-Tap to AC power supply, and it's incredible because you can take any external battery like a gold mount or a V-mount battery, and you can use those to power your lights, your camera gear, your laptops, and anything else. And it also comes with these little USB ports right here. So this was an amazing device that I got to use for this music video. This little device came in super clutch for this music video because I had a few scenes where I didn't have access to outlets. So I had to use this to power up my lights, and it was amazing. I mean, obviously you're still limited to the amount of battery power that you can get out of each battery, but with each gold mount battery that I use, I got about 10 to 15 minutes worth of power for my lights, which meant I could do 3 to 4 full takes of the artist performing. So it gave me just enough time to get the type of shots that I needed. With this tiny little brick, it means that you don't necessarily always need a generator on set and learn how to use it, and just kind of rely on this thing to power the lights that you need for a certain scene. Tip number 4 is lens filters and haze. Now these two items aren't super crucial for your next music video, but they're always good to have on set because they just add a certain level of stylized images that can really add to your production value and to the final product that you deliver. Shooting with some sort of a lens filter like a Pro Mist or a star filter helps you cope with some of the harsh settings that you're shooting in. For example, if you're shooting under the street lights and it's super orange and it just doesn't look the most appealing, these lens filters help your image look a lot better and cooler when you have them on your lens. For this music video, I use a Pro Mist filter, and what a Pro Mist filter does is it takes a little bit of your sharpness out of your image and it makes your highlights look really cool. Having a lens filter is an affordable way of getting a stylized image when you don't have many resources to work with. And my last tip for you guys today is to get help. If you're shooting in a busy location, it's important to have an assistant or two that can help you with your setup so you can get your shots done quicker. So for this alleyway scene, we had a few cars coming through the alleyway, so we'd have to pull the car out, let the other car pass, pull the car back, and basically reset and get the shots done. When you have help on set, the shooting just goes by way quicker. For this scene, we had to shoot in a lake here in Nashville, so I really needed help with someone holding the lights and also running playback. It's really helpful to have some people on set because if you're shooting in a public location, sometimes random people can come up to you and ask you questions, but I feel like if there's a couple of people on set, it comes off as a little more intimidating, which is a good thing because people will bother you less and you can focus more on getting the shots that you need in that location. Depending what you specifically need help with on the night of the shoot, you could pay someone between $300 to $600 to help you with gaffing, camera operating, or watching the equipment, or just being a helping hand on set. At the end of the day, as a filmmaker, you just have to get creative with what you've been given. There's never enough time, money, or equipment, so you might as well get creative with what you have. So do you have any tips or tricks that you like to use when you're shooting a night scene? Make sure to comment that below. I would love to hear from you guys. And also, as a thank you gift, I have some free filmmaking assets linked down below. Thank you guys so much for taking some time to watch this today. Make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon.